Thank you so much for staying with us, everyone. We've been talking to Senator Magnus Abe, the senatorial candidate of the APC for Rivers Southeast constituency. He's been talking about some of the controversies surrounding the hanging elections in Rivers legislative seat. Well, as it stands now, you were saying before we went on that break, some of the real reasons, according to you, why the elections in Tai stands inconclusive.
Yes, first of all, I said that the real reason that this election was postponed in Rivers State this time around is because the PDP wrote to INEC to request that the elections be postponed. And INEC, without consulting with other parties in the election, agreed to postpone the elections. Now, if that had been done at the instance of the APC, it would have been all over the airwaves, all over the country. INEC is collaborating with APC, INEC is doing this with APC, but nobody has said anything about that. Now, the Thai election results are being totally misrepresented to the Nigerian people, and people need to have the facts. What are the facts? Elections were conducted in Thai on the 19th when these elections took place. It was anchored by the electoral officer for Thai local government. It was collated by the collation officer appointed by INEC. It was returned by the returning officer appointed by INEC. It was monitored by all the relevant departments of INEC. It was cross-checked by the e-collation officers posted from the headquarters by INEC. And everything that should be done in an election, it was all there. The police, the SSS, everybody took part in the elections, and the elections were concluded. Now, why was the results for Thai not announced? The results for Thai were not announced by the INEC office in Port Harcourt because the resident electoral officer, electoral commissioner for Rivers State, said that Thai was among the 8 local governments that he had earlier cancelled, and therefore he would not announce the results for Thai. Now, the real reason that the results for Thai were not announced is because the PDP government in Rivers State had launched a campaign to stop Senator Abe by all means. And the votes in Thai were overwhelmingly in favor of the APC. That's the reason. Now, what is happening now? After the elections were conducted on the 19th of March, on the 29th of the same March, more than 2 weeks or 3 weeks after the elections, INEC came back to Port Harcourt and returned 5 seats and more in favor of the People's Democratic Party. Now, some of these seats included seats that were not validly won in the election, because by INEC's own guidelines in that election, any seat where the margin of win is less than the difference between the frontline the two foremost candidates will be inconclusive and should not have been returned. But all these seats were returned in favor of the PDP more than 2 to 3 weeks after the elections. Now, the same PDP is now telling Nigerians that INEC has come back after the March elections to come and announce results in Thai. 2 quick corrections. First is that the elections for Thai were announced on the 19th, were returned on the 19th, were collated on the 19th, and all these figures have been with INEC, but it was simply not acknowledged because of the reason I had earlier told you. Now, if INEC could come back on the 29th of March to return seats in favor of the PDP, why is the same political party, which they accepted at that time, they did not shout that INEC was coming back more than 3 weeks after election to return seats in an election that was done on the 19th. Now, if INEC could come on the 27th or 29th to come and make announcements in respect of that election, what stops the same INEC from coming back in December to make another announcement if the process is still on? These are the questions that Nigerians ought to ask. As long as the announcement was in favor of the PDP, it was not an issue that INEC was coming back weeks after the election to come and return seats in the absence of the APC.
Senator Abe, just a moment, if I may put it to you.
We were not there when those seats were collated.
Just a moment. There are a few things that are not adding up in some of the things that you have just explained now, because there are videos and there are evidence to otherwise showing what INEC did before, after the election, and what INEC has said afterwards, and in fact, what the court has said over the Thai election. But let me allow you you to listen to one of the men you stood against in that election. He is speaking about some of these allegations, and I would like you to react to them afterwards. Take a listen now.
Twice they have postponed the election. This is almost the third time they are giving us date. Certainly the election they were ready to reconduct has now changed again from we will not reconduct ties so that APC can have a massive leg up. Because in that election, they said they've given APC 35,000 votes. PDP probably scored nothing. And they want us to start from there. What Amina Zakari is doing is hurting the image of the commission, and it's a rape on democracy. It's a massive disenfranchisement of our people, and it's the most unfair thing. Amina Zakari, we have consistently said, is biased against us. And unfortunately, she's the National Electoral Commissioner in charge of elections. So even what we have been going through, she's the one in charge. When we were saying result sheets are being, for the first time in INEC ever in our history, result sheets that came in the last election were not authentic. It has never happened before. It's under her watch. Now, results that elections did not hold 6 months later, you're declaring elections under our watch, overruling our national chairman, overruling our resident electoral commissioner in Rivers State, overruling even the video evidence of our own electoral officer in the local government. She must give these votes to Magnus Abe, Piggy, and the other APC candidates. And she's just doing it barefaced. We begged her in the name of God. We said, Madam, have conscience. Our democracy is founded on fairness. You cannot, this one is too obvious. This is too unfair. But she has made her decision, and by God's grace, it will not stand, because we want Nigerians to know, if there is no fairness, if there is no justice, what are the elections about? She might as well just appoint those she wants, so that this effort to make sure they get somebody in Rivers State from APC can happen. Because everything they have done has been calculated to plant an APC officer. We say, I mean, appoint the person. You have the power to appoint. But if it is election, APC cannot win here. And what you're doing is unfair. And you cannot look forward to conducting 2019 elections if this is the mindset by which you want to conduct and operate the affairs of INEC.
Well, you can hear him there, the man there, Mr. Nwogo, who ran against you. Some of those allegations of the collaboration between your party and INEC, that's exactly, he said, this whole thing is playing out in the eye of the public. What are your reactions to this?
Sean, first of all, let me correct you. For you to accept what he has said the way you have is very, very wrong. You need to hear from us and hear from others before you reach that conclusion. Now, first, let me ask a very simple question of Nigerians. Amina Zakari is not the chairman of INEC. Is it not funny to Nigerians that in everything the PDP does and everything they say, they are always and only calling the name of Amina Zakari? How can a federal commissioner overrule the chairman, the chief executive of INEC? How come in everything that has happened in Rivers State, PDP has never once, not once, called the chairman of INEC, who is the chief executive of INEC? Nigerians ought to ask why. Why wouldn't they mention the name of the chief executive? Why call Amina's name all the time? Now, this same Amina they are complaining about was the federal commissioner on the 29th of March, when INEC came back to Rivers State and declared more than 7 seats in favor of the People's Democratic Party, including seats that were not won in that election.
All right.
Because from the guidelines of the election...
I need to pause you for a moment, Senator Abe, because we need to go on this short break and we'll return soon. Stay with us.